That's how we own it.
What's up, family? It's your girl, Tamika D, Mallory.
And your boy, Mysonne, the general.
And we are your hosts of Street Politicians, the place where the streets and politics meet. What's going on, Mysonne Lennon?
Oh, man, I'm blessed and highly favored. You know, had a long weekend. My young King Cameron, it was his 11th birthday. So he had me doing everything from doing iFly, where I was flying, and then I went to Six Flags, and he had me on every roller coaster in the world. So, you know, my body's a little tired. I ain't a young whippersnapper like I used to be, but you know, I had to be there with him and celebrate that. So happy birthday.
Your body's weary. Your body
the body's weary, but the heart and the mind is strong, man. I've been today. You know, I woke up today and I was just going through the news and I seen something with two people I actually know, one who's like a brother to me and another one who is somebody that
you saw.
I saw. Lord, this lady is the vocabulary police.
And I'm not, because I'm not that great at it, but you know.
But you seem to be great when it comes to me, man. Lord have mercy.
Each one teach one.
I saw something in the news today, and it was with my boy Mace and Fabio Foreign, who was, you know, a young brother that I like and I met, and you know, we got a good relationship with. And there was this conflict. I haven't read everything through it, but I've seen Fabio had an interview on Wallow and Gilly's $1 Million Worth of Game podcast. Shout out to them. And he was talking how Mace gave him a $5,000 advance when he signed him. And then I see now that Mace has come up there and he gave his point of view. I didn't really get to see his point of view, but you know, I was just reading some of the comments just based off what people were saying, you know, and even when Wallow and Gilly was like, what? He only gave you $5,000? That's crazy. Like, you know, and I was just, and I had a perspective, you know, because I personally was signed and I had a similar situation, not $5,000. But, you know, when people find out what you signed for, what your deal is, you know, people always be like, oh, it's not, it wasn't worth it. You worth more than this, you know, and as I understand the business more and more, and I look into it, you know, I didn't know who Fabio Foreign was. You know, I didn't, whenever Mace signed him, he wasn't this person that we know now. We don't, you know, he got this dope music. He's a dope artist, but he wasn't Fabio Foreign at that time. And Mace seen something in him. Mm-hmm. You know, he looked and said, oh, this dude is talented. And at the time, you know, even Fabio Foreign admitted himself and said, yo, that $5,000 was hitting at that time. I ain't have nothing. My man was like, yo, you bugging, you need to find. So Fabio felt that he was that was enough to sign a deal with Mace. You know, he didn't coerce him into anything. He said, yo, I see talent in you, and this is what I got to give. And the man accepted it. He didn't jerk him. He didn't say, I'm gonna give you this and didn't give you this. You know, maybe Fabio wasn't as skilled at the business. Maybe the people he had around him wasn't as skilled with the business. He didn't understand what he was signing. But what I'm trying to say is I don't see where Mace did anything dirty. Now, if he signed him for $5,000 and said, I own all your rights, I own your publishing, I own your masters, knowing that even if we do get somewhere, you know, I'm gonna own all the stuff from you, and you know, then I think that has to be renegotiated. At that point, you know, you should never own anybody's masters and all the things. Like, it's just no way. Like, so those are issues that I see. But when you initially sign an artist, man, you know, I've been one of those artists, you know, and shout out to my man Tone. Tone did good business with me, and there was people trying to cause confusion with that, but I was like, yo, I didn't have nothing. Nigga took me off the street, pulled me and you know, introduced me to certain people until we actually got a deal. You know, I was a dude in the hood, starving, trying to figure it out, you know? So a lot of people have this perspective that, you know, you're supposed to give somebody $1 million, a dude that just rapping that you just see a talent in. I'm sure that he had to pay studio time for them to make music. You know, I don't know. I'm just giving my perspective. You know, I'm sure he had to pay studio time to make music. I'm sure they probably got music that hasn't been released. But in the time that he signed them, whatever the situation was, Fabio got hot, and his career took off. So I don't know all the particulars, but I know when people looking at $5,000, oh, that's all he gave you. I don't know if I agree with that.
How long ago was it?
It was a few years. It was the years, like probably a year or something before Fabio got signed. And Fabio, like when we did the interview with Fabio, I remember Fabio saying he was homeless. There was a time he was homeless. I remember him literally saying that. So for somebody who was homeless and somebody invests $5,000 out of their pocket to give to you, and then provide opportunities for you to make music because they see a level of talent in you, and say, okay, well, when you get a deal, I need a percentage of it. You know what I'm saying? I don't see where that's doing bad business. If I offer you something,
what did Fabio say? Is he saying, I've seen it. I saw online several, posts, but I didn't like get into the details. But do you know if he feels like he was cheated or?
At first I don't think he felt like he was cheated. I don't know, because I don't do the gossip, and I'm not trying to cause beef between two black men. I know there's an online discussion. When he was telling Gillian Wallow it, he didn't sound like he was angry. He sounded like,
it's for information,
it was
so
business,
people will know.
made a decision. He said it, he didn't sound angry. But then I heard another thing after Mace's, which I'm gonna probably watch Mace's video later on to see the full, conversation that he had about it. And then somebody put a clip of, I think, Fabio talking to Mace and said, how much money you invested in my career? How much money you invested in me? And then Mace said, well, and about how much I invested in you is something about what happened. I don't remember the exact thing, but it sounded like they was having like a debate. And so it sounded like there's some confusion, some level of confusion. But I'm just saying overall, people's perspective, making it seem like $5,000 was nothing, and he should, he's supposed to do more for him. And I'm just saying, at that time, first of all, nobody knows what Mace has. You know what I'm saying? Mace is, nobody knows how much money Mace has, so they're making that assumption based on what, I don't know. And then they're not paying attention to the fact that somebody is taking a chance, a risk. When they invest in you, advancement is just, if you get something, you pay me back. That's all it is. You know what I'm saying? So if I see talent in you, and if you actually have talent and we get somewhere, then you pay me back my investment, and then we work from a level of percentages. So, like once again, I don't know if he negotiated taking his publishing or his masters and all of that, but people being mad that all he got was $5,000 when he was actually somebody that none of us actually knew, to me, is a little crazy. That's if somebody walked up to me and said, yo, I think you dope, man. I heard you do something, and I'm just gonna give you $5,000 for something that I think you're gonna do later. Most of us gonna take it if we ain't got nothing. Unless we already built the brand for ourselves, then listen, I've already built this brand, so I'm worth this. So you only can negotiate what you're worth. And when you have to negotiate what you believe you're worth.
Yeah, you should. I don't know. I think I see both sides, and I'd love for you to, let me know, like, what is the point of all of this? Because, $5,000, while it is certainly something when you have nothing, it also might be the $5,000 you need to pass up because there's a larger, offer coming, and you already tying yourself into something that is not really up to the standard of who you are and what your potential is, because there is a such thing as investing in potential, right? And I'm not saying $5,000 isn't, I'm just saying there is a such thing as investing in potential. So it would be good to know and understand both perspectives, in terms of where they were and how Fabio feels about the situation. I too, as we see him in passing several places, he seems to be a really, really nice guy who was like really just, sort of to himself and trying to figure out things. He's very talented, and we know that. So I'm sure that, if he had to do it all over again, he probably would be more educated, have different people around to help him. But when somebody takes a chance on you, there are people out here who, might not have a lot or may not be willing to even give a lot, but the small steps help you to build towards the bigger thing. So I don't know. I mean, I think I'm sure that you will get all of the little menial details because it is something that's important. And how they deal with it or how it all shapes up is very important for this generation that's watching how Black men interact with one another, especially with conversations about money, where people feel they have either been or have, whatever, they've been taken advantage of or they haven't, and just, what that looks like. And that is, I think, how we deal with conflict resolution is in being able to have these conversations. So that's my perspective.
No, it makes sense. I just want people, right, not to be so quick to. It's like Beyonce said her first contract, she only got $50,000, and people are like, what? You only got $50,000? Yeah, Beyonce. She wasn't Beyonce then, right? So we having a conversation about the Fabio now, in comparison to who he was then. Not taking anything from him. He obviously was talented, and somebody seen that. But a lot of times as an up and coming artist, I remember me not having nothing. And when they came, whatever the little 20-some thousand dollar advance they gave me, and I was like, yes, I couldn't wait, and other people got way more than me. But at that time, that's what I believed I was worth. I needed it. I believed I was worth moving, in hindsight, I probably would have said, nah, let me wait, because in hindsight, I realized how much I'm worth. You know what I'm saying? I realized just moving forward. Yeah, I realized what my potential was. A lot of people invest in potential that you don't know is there. And that in itself is a skill set, right? And it's supposed to be compensated for, because when people invest in you prior to you even realizing who you are, it gives you an extra level of confidence to actually go to the next level, because people have that level of belief in you. So we can't overlook those things, man. Don't overlook those people who see something in you before you actually see something in you, because those people are valuable.
Well, I agree. Well, other things are happening in the news. One story that really stuck out, and I didn't hear a lot of people talking about it this week, but it's an interesting story where in Kenly, North Carolina, the new city manager, her name is Justine Jones, is a Black woman who just became the city manager. And I guess over the last 2 months, all of the members of the police force have resigned. I don't know if it's all, I mean, it says entire police force resigns, but it's like, what does that mean? Because, entire is entire is entire. But anyway, they say entire. So that means everybody resigned. And the chief of police is saying, he wrote a Facebook post talking about, how she is creating a hostile environment for the officers, and that it's her fault that all of these officers have resigned. And so, it's interesting because I don't know her, you don't know her, and I am not going to assume that every Black person, every Black woman, anybody is right or does everything properly, or she could be evil, nasty, rude, crazy, or let's not say crazy, wrong word, but she could have issues, all of that, right? And we don't know because we're not there, and would make people feel hostile. But what we do know, we know this, we don't know who she is and what she may or may not have done. But what we definitely know is how officers want a full autonomy and do not want accountability for their actions. So when so it sounds to me, but again, we don't know, but it sounds to me like a Black woman became city manager, which means she's supposed to manage the city, and police departments somehow think they are a separate and apart entity, and that they can just work on their own and not have any accountability measures for the things that go on. And she probably said, no, as city manager, policing is a part of it. There's going to be rules, regulations, budgets, checking the money, where the money is going, how it's being used, what's happening in terms of quotas and datas and all of that stuff, data. And I bet you they said, this is how we're going to protest by all of us walking out. Me, if I was talking to the sister, I would say, hey, bye-bye. now it's time for us to rebuild a department with people who want and understand what accountability looks like. That's my opinion. But again, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, but it doesn't make much sense to me that a whole department would decide that they're gonna quit when a Black woman gets in office. Like, so she's just completely focusing and doing something wrong to all of y'all to the point where nobody wants to work, and we've seen these type of activities in the past, when Black people are put in positions of power, and the white supremacist mind state says that I don't have to listen to this Black person. I'm not letting this Black woman tell me what to do. I've been doing it a certain way. And, they probably didn't want her in office to begin with. So it seems like that. But once again, like you said, we don't know all the particulars. But it's just unfortunate that these situations just look so familiar. We constantly have to deal with situations like this, So
people, this is a thing. Cops resigning, turning their backs on the mayor, all of that because they feel like they have been challenged for behavior that is abusive. It's offensive, it's abusive, it's criminal, and they do not like or want anybody to come into place and call them out publicly about it. And also for people to create, again, accountability measures, right? And a city manager looks at budgets, looks at the money. And that's a definite no-no, because once you start looking, but the money is not just money in and of itself. It's money attached to performance. So what exactly is happening? You're using all of this money, you're doing all of these things, but what are some of the other issues and concerns? Can you be less militarized? Can you respond differently in situations where there should be de-escalation, mental health, or what have you? So it's going to be interesting to really read and focus and follow up on what is taking place, in that situation. But my thing is, based upon what I think I know, again, we don't know, but what I think I know, Justine Jones, a Black female city manager, is probably about her business. And these people who are primarily, we know that that's the case all across the country, whether you Black, white, whatever you may be, is primarily male. And I can say with no hesitation that I bet this police department in North Carolina, Kenly, North Carolina, is heavily populated with white men in the police department, and they're not going to listen to any woman, and especially not a Black woman. That's what I think. But
sounds about white.
That's what I think. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, listen, sounds about white. So,
also in the Bronx, we've all followed the story of Junior. It's been several years now since Junior was murdered in a horrific scene where the bodega owner didn't help him when he ran in after being chased down by how many men was involved in that?
I don't
Many.
know. It was a lot.
Like maybe six people or whatever. And the bodega owner closed the door or something, right?
The store's been closed. I think.
No, I mean that day.
At that day, yep, he kicked Junior out and closed the door, kicked him out the store.
Kicked him out and closed the door. And these men were able to attack Junior. They beat him, they stabbed him, right? Stabbed him, beat him, and he had to take himself to the hospital when he died. Yeah. Terrible, 15 years old.
Think so, 15 or 16, one of them.
Very young kid, not a grown man. He died in a very, very horrific way. His family, it just was heart-wrenching watching it. And over time, there's been trials and there's been different things happening. And now he definitely was 15 years old. And now there are two people who've been convicted of murder. And they should absolutely be, we call it justice, but really justice is more is Junior not being in a trap situation where people would
You just
even
have
try
to, exactly.
to take his life. It's just
More accountability than actual justice, man, because it's just lives lost, family members, mothers losing their child. I say all the time, when we kill each other, you know, we lose two lives, the person who's been killed and the person who did the killing, because that person's life will never be normal again if he's not in prison for the rest of his life. So it's just a lot.
yeah, no, it's really, 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 really painful. And then the last thing is a story that is now developing. I feel like someone said to me today, in fact, it was Linda, she wrote it on our chat for the co-founders of Until Freedom. How are we supposed to keep up with this shit? That is exactly what she said. Now you have this young lady, Brianna Greer, who was, she's a diagnosed schizophrenic. Her family, she was having an episode. Her mom called the police. She called 911. They came. There's video where you see them carrying her. You know, she's in an episode fully in her, you know, crying and probably, you know, crying and unable to follow whatever directions she's being given. So they had to grab her and drag her. And they put her into the police car. And I'm not talking about what her family said or what attorney Ben Crump, who is now her attorney, or what attorney Gerald Griggs from Georgia said. I'm not talking about what Mysonne and Tamika said. I'm talking about the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. They said she was put in the car with no seatbelt and the door was not closed completely. She flew out of the car, hit her head, and 6 days after being in a coma, she died. This is the mother of 3-year-old twins. Now, I know there is an idiot somewhere saying, well, she should have complied. She shouldn't have done this, or she shouldn't, bruh.
There's always some idiot.
The bottom line is that having a mental health problem should not be a sentence of death. Not to mention, we're still talking about Randy Cox in Connecticut, where he was arrested over a dispute where someone said the person he was in a dispute with never says he pulls a gun out on me. That never happened. But as he's in the dispute, someone else sees a weapon on him. They call to say these people are into it, which again, this person never said they felt threatened or any of that. But the cops say, okay, this other person called to say they saw a gun. So they arrest him. He was in the process at that time of, he was like managing, if you will, a street, like a what is that called? Block party for someone else who had been killed. And he's like the head guy of this, right? So he's out there managing things. He had the street blocked off so that people wouldn't drive down it. And someone pulls up and decides they're going to go through anyway. And that's where the dispute started. This other individual calls to report that they think they see a weapon. So the police came, they picked him up, they arrested him. And while he's in the car, he's in there with no seatbelt on, handcuffed, sliding back and forth in the paddy wagon. And we know there's no room, that you can't do anything. There's nothing you could do. He falls to the side, hits his head, breaks his neck, his back, other ailments, and he's now paralyzed. So this is like Linda's point. How much of this shit, how do we keep up with this shit? Because now it appears to me that they are intentionally not putting the seatbelt on and either leaving doors open or creating rough ride, what we call it, the Freddie Gray rough ride situation to deal with people who they feel are unruly, angry, or whatever, right? Because we see in the video that Randy is like kicking the thing, he's mad, he's cursing, and they know how to deal with that. But what do you do when you're schizophrenic and you don't even have ability in this moment to reason normally because you are going through a manic moment.
But this is where, we talk about law changes and we talk about qualified immunity. And we talk about why these things are important, right? Because if the police are constantly able to utilize, they didn't know or they felt threatened, and those things are grounds for them not to be prosecuted or not really be held accountable, right? Then why do you have to know? Why do you have to do things right, right? If I'm on a job and I don't really have any expectations and I'm not going to be held accountable, whatever happens, they'll put me on desk for a second. You'll take it out of the public's money and pay people, and it'll be all. I don't know real accountability for me. I could constantly continue to be negligent, to be not do my job properly, to be purposely do things that are negligent, and there's no accountability. So when we look at these situations, if officers knew that, listen, if something happens to this officer right here, it's totally on me. I'm going to be charged. They're going to take the money out of my check. My family's not going to be able to survive. The level of carefulness that they will utilize, the professionalism that would be utilized every time would be way different. Officers don't really have any accountability for anything, and they don't care.
And I would add to what you just said, that the other piece is when we say defund the police, this is what we're talking about. We're not saying demolish police departments in every city and don't have police. What we're saying is there's a funding imbalance. There is no reason, and this gets me into my thought of the day too, why the police even need to respond to a schizophrenic attack or moment, or whatever I don't know the appropriate term. I'm sure there is one. There's no reason why an officer with a gun and a cage, which is the car, which is even more stressful to a person who's already having a psychological moment of outburst, right? They're already going through something. The last thing you want to do is escalate the tension, right? And so the appropriate thing should be that officers arrive with someone who is specifically trained to deal with mental health issues, and that the officer is there to protect. Of course, that expert needs to be protected. I would never say just send, people into anybody's house unprotected. I wouldn't even say that, but the officer should be secondary, very slow to engage, and it should be someone there who has the ability to talk them down, work within the situation that's happening, and help to get this individual to feel comfortable enough that they will return.
Public safety should be the first, line.
Public safety.
First thing we focus on, and
right.
And it's not, and it's about punitive. It's about
exactly
all of those things, and that's why police shouldn't be sent to these situations alone, especially. So
absolutely. Now, but let me tell you my thought of the day. Breonna's mother says something that, and we're talking about Breonna Greer because we still fighting for justice for Breonna Taylor.
That's right.
But Breonna's mother says, I feel so bad, like it's my fault because I called the police and I should never have called them. My thought of the day is that there is a serious disconnect that has to be addressed between our seniors, some of our most valuable, and it's our prides, our prized possession, the elderly people in our community, right? It's just like our babies, our seniors and our elders need to be protected and loved on, and they need all the beautiful things that life can give because they gave us life and they have maintained and fought and been through so much for us to be here. There is a serious disconnect between that generation and our generation where it is rare that if your loved one is having some type of problem or attack or whatever, you and me, and most people that are our age, we're not calling the police. We're not suggesting that. We are not picking up the phone to call 911 for most things, unless we absolutely feel like there is nothing else that can be done. But our seniors, right, they have been trained because of how just society says the only way to deal with our issues a lot of times is through law enforcement. So when you feel like your back is up against the wall, it's like we believe, they believe the right thing. There's nothing wrong with how they think, right? They believe that the people they pay, who are supposed to be an authority, should come and solve the problem. And they don't expect that their loved one is going to be killed. They don't even when they say Ray and them is down the street and something's going on over there and I feel nervous, they do not want you to come here and kill Ray. They want you to come get him, figure it out. Where we are having a disconnect is that what our people need to understand is that 9 times out of 10, these people are not coming to help. They are not coming to add, to solve, to provide resources.
Because they don't have, because they don't have the skill set, right? Because when they come to our community,
or the care,
exactly. There's a level of empathy and compassion that is not present in the police when they come to our communities. They've already been taught that our communities are dangerous. You have to be aware that everything is next. So they come there with a level of adrenaline, a level of fear, a level of anger,
aggression,
all those things that automatically incites more of a confusion, right? So if I'm just arguing with my brother and the police come out like, what's going on? Put your hands up. You're like, yo, we just talk. What are you talking about? Now the aggression, you didn't come and say, hey, what's going on, man? What seems to be the problem here? Let's just calm down. They don't come with that. They come with this level of aggression. They pulling out their guns. They pushing people away who actually are trying to diffuse situations and telling them to get out the way and all that. And then it's causing more confusion because you done push somebody's brother or mother, and now it's an issue between that person. So they haven't been given the proper understanding of even how to de-escalate. Most of these officers do not have de-escalation skill set, not just a training. It has to be a will, right? A lot of these officers get into police that have a position of power. They don't want to have a position of protect and serve. They don't think they serve you. They think they're above you. So they come to your community with this level of energy that they're in charge. They get out their car for ice grilling you, looking at you, and you look at them back. And they come out and want to prove to you that they tougher than you. There's a lot of these machismo officers, right? So we have to understand that in our communities. We have to understand that.
And that's why
we can't create that.
Right. And so that is like a part of a larger dialogue, which we should really be unpacking as well, in the next few weeks. Is this issue around the shootings, the violence. We just talked about Junior. Those types of incidents make our elderly nervous. It makes them scared, and they should. By the way, the videos have been, remember, we went through at the beginning of the year, several videos coming out of men robbing, knocking people down, hurting elderly people, pushing people, trying to run in their homes. And it was like every day. That stuff probably hasn't stopped. It may have calmed down in some places now that people are sort of getting back to work and things are moving, but still there are incidents happening every day. People are nervous. They are afraid. They should not have to be fighting in their community. They shouldn't have to be walking through their communities, looking over their shoulders, because some of these young punks, they
need ass whooping. Some of them need ass whooping.
They absolutely need their asses whipped. They need people to really pull their coattails. And what we have to do is make sure that folks know that in many places around this country, there are anti-violence prevention and interruption specialists that you can call that will help figure out what is wrong, what's going on with Poo-Poo What is his
And these are people
situation?
from your community that you actually know, that
That's
you've
right.
seen, and you know that you probably don't know that that's what they do, but they're actual people in your community who are credible messengers, who you actually respect, who you've seen grown, and some of them you've seen change from being one of the agitators
Exactly.
to being able to, you know, deflate any situation. So I think it's our job, you know, and I've been having this conversation with our mayor, with all of the, you know, the crisis management system is what they've called. And how do we amplify that message? How do we make sure that it's publicized that people are doing this work so that our elderly says, oh, you know what? I could call these people. Who does that in my community, right? How do we identify with those people? Who do I connect? What's the number for those people when I see situations, you know, or have situations in our community, right? So
And the police department should support this.
Yep, so
The
the
police
police
department
department,
should say,
because at the end of the day, it makes your job easier. You ain't gotta go over there, deal with Ray. You ain't gotta potentially have to hurt nobody. You don't have to get in a situation that you're not even skilled to deal with, right? Or don't even want to deal with. So you should be calling, hey, they got a situation over there. You guys handle that and let us know if you need our assistance, right? That's the way the liaison system should work between the crisis management system and the police.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are things that we have to make sure I'm now committed that we have to get into the places where our elderly and our seniors are, because we have been so narrowly focused on really important work of getting into the hearts and minds of the Keishas and the Ray Rays and the Poo Poos and the Neat Neats and all of the people in the community. And that is awesome. And we have to continue to do that work, because that is the demographic that we at Until Freedom in our organization, that is our demo, right? That's who we work with. But now what we realize that in order to help that group, we also have to educate and work with our elderly community so that they know there are other resources. And so they are not part of Crime Bill 1994, because that's what's happening right now. They're trying to pass Crime Bill 1994 2.0, which means that the same crime bill that was dealing with violence and drugs and all of that, that put a bunch of people in prison in 1994, that we all, you know, there's always people talking about Bill Clinton and Joe Biden's, their role in that, super predators, which Hillary Clinton said, those have been top of the mind in terms of the election for president and just the conversation in general. Well, it also is happening right now. And again, the excuse that is used most times when you're talking to people who voted for that bill is that the pastors and the seniors, that they were asking for something to be done and they supported the crime bill. And that's because it's out of fear. And so we cannot repeat these same things when we know our history teaches us that more law enforcement, more cops, and more money for police has never been the solution. If it were the solution, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now, because they have money. So here we go again with one of our friends, and it's a friend that he's not just our friend. This is our brother that we are talking with today. I love this new format that Mysonne has us doing for the show. He decided that after a few years of us doing Street Politicians, that he wanted to shake up the programming a little bit and really get to know more about each person and the people we're interviewing, their personal lives, their stories, how they got to where they are, in addition to them talking about our topic of the day. But this particular person, we've been on a journey with him for the last several years as family. And you guys know that one of the big things about Street Politicians is that we always have good friends that are out here doing great things in society that we're able to talk with and hopefully share something that you all don't know about them. And so for today, our brother that's joining us is a TV personality, a serial entrepreneur. They're buying up so much stuff, a whole new world of investing and having restaurants and businesses. The father of 4 children who I call my nieces and nephews. Very, very dear to me to watch him as a father be there with his family, and very, very important. Probably the most important thing that he does every day is deal with my crazy sister, Yandy Smith Harris, who is his beautiful wife. Thank you for joining Street Politicians, Mendeecees.
Thank you for having me.
It's tough, man.
Thank you, my son. Thank you, Tamika. I appreciate this opportunity.
Man, listen, man. I just recently heard that you just got off parole. So congratulations on that. Probation.
Right.
Probation.
Thank you. It's pretty much the same thing, right? So yeah, I put in for early request and they let me off 3.5 years early.
Wow.
Same thing they did to me, man. I know that feeling. It feels like things just lift off your shoulder, man. They got all types of restrictions.
I feel like a new man that I don't have to send an email to ask for permission. Can I go somewhere or leave out the country? So now it's time to really explore life and see what's out there as far as traveling. One of my dreams were to travel outside the country and go to a lot of places that I never thought was possible.
Wow, I didn't know about I knew you were released from probation, but I didn't know that you submitted for early release. That I didn't even know that was possible. So that's amazing.
Yeah, man.
That must be a testament to how you've been living your life since being released. That basically the system understood that, like, this is not the guy that we need to be worried about, because it's very clear that you are a family man, a businessman, you're living your life a certain way. And it's what is supposed to happen, right? We have hardships, challenges, trials, especially coming up young, growing up in the hood, shit happens. And then we're supposed to grow into adulthood. And as what is the Bible quote says, when I was a child, I did childish things. But when I became a man, I had to do man things. And that's what I see from you today.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So Mendeecees, now I know you hate interviews, because I know you hate interviews, you know what I'm saying? And you hate public, you hate being public, like, you know what I'm saying? So I know these things.
I wouldn't use the word hate. He's strong.
Well, he doesn't really like it. You understand what I'm saying? You know, a lot of people.
I prefer if I can to be behind the scenes. I really don't like being in front of the camera, but I embrace it now, just because I see that we all can relate to each other. You know, we all share the same story, and my story may help someone else out and, make them navigate and find a way to overcome it. So I embrace it, but I'm not the one to run and jump in front of the camera.
Right.
But if you catch me, I'm gonna talk, I'm gonna open up, and I'm gonna share.
But how was that process getting, like, from the beginning? Like, when I first heard that you was gonna be on the show, I was like, I know this is a process for him, because I know he don't even like knowing you for years, knowing when you always the person in the cut, just, people know who you are, but you never was trying to get attention. You was always a person who got attention and never tried to get it. So how was that process for you just getting on TV? What was that process like for you?
So the first time I was offered to be on TV, I declined, because I didn't think I was made or cut out for TV. I knew that you had to give up your privacy. I knew people would be in your business. And, first I wasn't living right, and I just wasn't ready for that attention. I prefer to not be talked about. I prefer to be able to eat in peace and just have that mental space, not people worrying about what I'm doing. I think it's kind of like, how, like, being in the streets, we get money quietly. We really didn't know how to do it out in the open in front of everybody. Everything was like done, in my case, behind closed doors. So that's how I was, like, moving, in silence. So, when they was talking TV, I was like, that's just putting a spotlight on us. I didn't know how to function.
That's a Frank Lucas mindset, right?
Right. So, you have Yandy, you have Mona, you have all of them keep saying, at one point you have to try something new, you have to transition, you have to, they just kept convincing me, then I just said, hey, what the hell? And, it's something new. Why not give it a try after a while?
So the cameras were in your house, but you was not on the show
Right,
at some point. So you was like running around corners and being out the
right,
way while
right,
they filmed Yandy.
right.
And I know you was like, hell no, it's way too many people, because we did a lot of the season before this one with you guys, and it was too much for me. And I'm used to cameras, and it was just too much. It's just so many people. They're telling you, well, we know you don't feel like it. We know you need a nap. We know you're tired, but we really, 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 really need to come to your house and sit there with you. And we really need you to just do stuff, live in your life, talk to your kids. Nobody wants to talk to their kids in front of the camera. Like, why?
I remember when one time, like the very first time I was going away, and there was cameras in my house, and I pulled my son in the room and closed the door on the cameras. And doing behind that door, I was actually trying to tell my son I was going away, but I was like crying. And I remember the camera guy was like, oh, and the producer was like, oh man, come on, please share this with them. And I was like, what? Share this with y'all? Nah, you can't see me crying. Like, you can't see me this vulnerable. Like, I'm not ready for that. And they did a little convincing, and I just said, you know what? I did it, and that's one of the scenes that a lot of people remember and hold dearly to their hearts, because it was real.
It resonates, man. And that's one thing about you that I've always said. He's a very authentic person and relatable. So when I watched you, it gave, because prior to you, and then Pat, I was like, I would never, it's just not something that I could even relate to. So watching brothers that I respect, that move in a certain manner and have certain ethics and codes that I abide by, doing it the right way, even when you was being vulnerable, it just didn't look like it was bullshit. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
It was, you can tell it was authentic. And every time I seen you on the show, I knew it was authentic. But a lot of people don't know that prior to Love and Hip Hop, that you was an entrepreneur, that you had businesses, you had studios. Like what businesses did you have prior to even being on Love and Hip Hop?
So I pretty much tried everything. I had car service business, like I had Cadillac trucks, some conversion vans, and I remember I used to have contracts with the record labels to put artists when they come in town. I tried the car service thing for a while. I had a studio. I was managing Vado. And the main thing of having a studio, I was looking for artists, and I wanted to have a home for artists. I wasn't even charging people at that time. I just wanted people to work. So I'd tell them to come to the studio and just make to stay home and record. And hopefully I'll find the next thing. And I was dipping and dabbing in real estate, but I was all over the place. I was all over the place trying to turn a dollar. The same way I am now. I think I'm a little more over the place, because my wife she won't let me sit down. She won't let me rest. Even though, we not like super rich or nothing, but we don't have to, we can sit down for a little while, but she just don't stop. I be wanting to just, take care of the kids and take a few days off. She works in her sleep. So I think that makes me want to go hard too, to see her work ethic. It'd be like, I can't be sleep. I gotta keep up, So it's like
that's what having a Black woman, a strong Black woman, that's what it looks like for Black men. It always has, that's our role, is to really charge the machine constantly, keep you going and keep you knowing,
right.
like, knowing your value and your worth, and to help you keep leading. And we're going to talk about the dynamics of you and Yandy also, but I do think that I've watched you grow even in how you support her in business, because you are such a behind the scenes, and she is such a in front of the everything,
right,
and running her mouth, ideas.
Do you see us with the commercials
I see.
Oh my God.
I see y'all. I mean, she's a lot. She's a big personality. And so I know when she starts businesses, you're doing the usual Mendeecees. You quiet. You like, I'm going to come, but I'm not going to say too much. This is your thing. I don't want to be too. And then she's like, hell no. Like, I know I started these businesses. I know I didn't ask anybody whether they wanted to. I know I didn't get anybody's input, but now I expect that the whole family is in charge of keeping the businesses going. And I have watched you grow into being like, now on Yell, I got to know all the products. I got to be able to sell and speak to, and because that's what it's supposed to be about.
Right, right. Yeah, listen, anything I don't know about the products, Yandy's definitely take a time, teach me, and she showed me. I remember when I first came home, and she introduced me to the product. I didn't know if it like really worked for real, for real. And she was like, just try it, right? Just try it, because I thought it was like a gimmick, right? I'm like, but then it actually worked, and then I got hooked, and then she just taught me about skincare that, I used to wash my face with Dove soap. I didn't know the difference between serum and cleansing. I don't know. I wash my face, I'm out the door. Like, but now I know, and I'm taking better care of my skin. Teaching our kids to do the same thing, and also able to teach people how to do it, especially men, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of men like myself that just wash their face and go with the same soap they wash their body.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, that's what I was actually in your house when you were away, and she made me do a commercial, and she was like, Mike, what do you wash your face with? I'm like, I wash my face with soap and water, like regular. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's what most Black men do. That's what we was taught. We ain't have no little serums and all that stuff. And she
Right.
walked me through it and said, listen, you're gonna do this today. So ever since then, I've been a lot more. So thanks to my sister Yandy for making me take more pride in my skincare. But what I want to know, right, is being formerly incarcerated. I know that time, like you expressed how you was telling your son that you was going away, and you was vulnerable and you was crying, because I know that feeling. As you sat in that cell and you sat away from your family, like, what was the mind state like re-entering society? When you came, like, what did you say to yourself? You're away from your family, away from your wife, you're away from all these things. Like, what did you say to yourself to keep going and to motivate you when you got back out here?
I think I had time to myself to reflect on the decisions I made, through my whole life, from the beginning, just all the bad decisions I made, all the what I could did over if I had the opportunity. And after I got past that, I was just trying to figure out how a plan, and how can I be a better version of me, and so I can be a better version, a father to my son, a husband to my wife, and a better son to my mom, and better brother to my brothers. I just wanted to be a better me. So after reflecting on the decisions I made, that was my main focus, because I started seeing that, the things I put first, where I put love at, that shouldn't have been love, as far as like materialistic things, and partying, and just in general. So I wanted to make sure that when I came home, I could execute a plan. I could be more involved in my kids' life. I could be a better husband. I could be a better brother, and I could open up more. I don't have to be so close. I speak more. I can tell people how I feel. I don't have, I was so close. We was taught not to express emotions and keep them locked in and hold them. And I wore a good poker face. I learned how to smile when I really want to frown. I wore a good mask. I did it the majority of my life. And sometimes it's such a habit that I do it now, and I catch it, and I try to communicate, because I'm smiling and I'm really pissed off. But I learned to say that, yo, listen, I don't really like that. This is how it made me feel, and able to work through situations and move past it. And because of that, I'm able to have great relationships.
That's so powerful, because when we decided that we wanted you to be our guest, my son, he called me up, he said, yo, I want to do Mendeecees. And what we do with every guest is we talk to each other about how we feel about the individual, so we know what direction we're going to take in the interviews. And, you know, we travel all the time, my son and I, and a bunch of us are always together. And I've never been around people this much that are formerly incarcerated, as much as we do now, that this is the work that we're very much engaged in. And there are very similar characteristics, if you will, or things that I think all of you guys do. And that's one of them. The whole, like, you know, laughing when you're really not happy, but trying not to lose it, you know, on people, like always trying to maintain a level of like, let me not engage in anything because I could go from here to here real fast. So I don't want to even get into conflict. I'm not trying to, and here I am, I'm over there like, tell them, Mike, why don't y'all say something? I'm trying not to let that, you know, I don't want that side of me to come out. Also, the quiet space, like we all know, Linda, myself, all of us know we have to leave my son sometimes alone and let him just have his quiet space for thought, because he goes into these moments when he has to be able to recalibrate, especially after we've annoyed him all day. Because imagine, Gandhi and I, the reason why we're so close is because we're very similar. And Linda also, we always got something to say. We telling him what to do, how to do it, pull your pants up, this ain't right, what's wrong with your skin, your hands ain't right, you got to say it like this work. We annoying, we know that, but it's all for a good cause. However, y'all need space. And so I just want to say that I identify now that those of us who want to be good allies to returning citizens also have to understand that there are certain things that take time to develop out of. But I don't know, my son, you've been out for a long time, and I don't know if you have developed out of those things.
I mean, it's a space, like, you know, and it's your sanity. Like you develop it from being incarcerated, right? Because the moves that you make incarcerated could cost you your life. Certain people, you got to watch things. You got to be very observative. You got to see everything that's going on. You got to say less, because the more you say, the more people feel like they know you, they get comfortable with you. It puts you in a position to where you might have to do something to somebody. So, and it's similar in these streets, and it's similar just in every business. A lot of people that they say things and do things, and there's a level of energy that I know in different forums, they might not survive, right? But I understand that. So me evolving into this space, I need to take time for myself. I need time to unpack. I need time to think about things, because a lot going on, you know, and I'm a very meticulous and calculative person. I don't like to make a lot of mistakes. I don't like to say things that I don't know about. I don't like to, you know, just be speaking just for the sake of talking. So I find myself like secluded a lot, you know, and like Mendeecees said, I understand what my story can mean to somebody else. So I've become more of a public figure. I made myself public. But like when we first started working with each other, I never was really public. I would tell you stuff and be like, yo, y'all need to do this, this, and that. And you like, you do it. I'm like, nah, I know what I'm saying, but I don't want all of the public stuff. So, you know, that's one of the things that I say, like when I'm incarcerated, you become a lot more introverted. Even if you're not, you can be, but it gives you, like, you need certain times just of quiet and sanctuary.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right. So you got out earlier than was expected, right?
No, I tried. I put in a motion to get out earlier, but it was denied. But I was released to the halfway house, so I had 9 months halfway house. So that's what, you know, that's, people usually get 9 months to a year. Some people get 6 months, but unfortunately, I got 9 months. So
what was that like, the halfway house? I'm not really had many conversations with people about that period.
The halfway house is people getting reintegrated back to society, and some people don't have nowhere to stay, and it gives them a couple of hours out to go find a job, and just to get on their feet. But for some people, like myself, if you have somewhere to go, then they don't want to just throw you out there and you be stranded and don't have, lack of opportunities, don't have nowhere to stay, and then you start committing crimes again. Mm-hmm. So they give you a little bit at a time, see what you can handle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But you guys had a mansion already.
Yeah.
And you
So
was in the halfway house.
nah, they kicked me out. As soon as I got there, they kicked me out. They said that I was getting special treatment, and you listen. I put like this. I was blessed to be able to not have a stressful bid, right? That my kids was taken care. Um, I'm okay financially. The only thing that was worrying is that I was missing moments in my family life. That's the only thing that was causing stress. But other than that, it wasn't. For me, it was a learning process, right? I got to learn me, and you know, that was important because I was living fast, and no telling if I wouldn't go to prison where I would have been, and focus on how can I make myself a better person.
So I remember in one of the reunion episodes, and it was another powerful moment, where you was talking about how you felt like you was groomed to be a drug dealer.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that was, and a lot of people, like I say all the time, I have conversations with people, and I say the first vision of success I ever seen was a drug dealer. I didn't see no lawyer, I didn't see nothing. The person who had the car I wanted, the money I wanted, the girl, the respect I wanted was a drug dealer. So that was my image of what success was. So that's what I wanted to be. So explain when you said that, what was you thinking when you said it?
So when I was thinking, like, when I was young, and I take you back to like I was 6 years old, like pretty much not able to comprehend real good. I remember someone in my family used to take me down to Soho in the village, and they used to give me which I learned later was a pack of drugs, and tell me put it in my my underwear rather, and play the video games, and every like 30 or 40 minutes used to ask me for it. And I never knew what it was until I told my mom, and my mom, baby father, and they end up getting into a fight because I overheard them saying, "You gave my son drugs." So later on, you know, that same person, was coaching and goading me to become a drug dealer. And then what happened was when my mother baby father left, and then my mother had her situation, there was no one around to protect me. So I had to defend for myself. And those were real vulnerable moments that, I needed to make money. I needed to eat. I needed sneakers, I just needed things, and I had nowhere to get it from. So that person really was like, well, you do this, you do that, and just watching and observing, and then I just took off from there.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think that's with so many things. Like, we think of that only, well, listening to you, that's obviously a really harsh situation and an example of like destruction and whatever. But it's the same with women and how we learn to use our bodies, right? For whatever we need, right? We're taught by other women from a very, very young age. And it's not like they're giving you something to, and making you sell yourself, but they're showing you that when you do certain things with your body and you act certain ways, that will help you get things that you want. And it only turns into a worse, people behaving in very promiscuous ways later on in life. So the way in which we train our children, and I watch you guys insulate your kids very much, to keep them from these influences, these outside influences. There are a lot of people out here who don't have the resources you have. They don't have the resources we have. My son's the same, insulating his children as much as possible. People don't have that. You living in the projects right now, or living in any community that is marginalized and disadvantaged, and you got a parent maybe locked up, maybe not even, maybe deceased. You've got a mother who is, working 2 jobs, maybe whatever she's got to do, because 2 jobs could be a whole lot of different things. It doesn't mean that she's going to the hospital and whatever. She could be going to the stripper pole at night and doing something else in the daytime, trying to survive. The people that are catching those kids are folks that have that's all they know. Right. You know what I'm saying? So this is why breaking the cycle is so important. and why it's so important for the two of you and others like y'all to do this work of telling your story, because then people will see, oh, wait a minute, that's what this looks like. You know, I need to insulate and protect our kids. So, and let me move on to another question. You know, I'm the one on here that runs my mouth. Coming back home, you're coming back to a different Yandy.
Right.
Not the same woman that you left. She's now years later. How long did you do?
4 years.
So 4 years. Oh, a lot happened in 4 years. She's grown. She's become even a bigger personality. She's found social justice in this time period, that she's now full-fledged into fighting for justice and causes. How do you feel returning into this new situation with your new wife?
In the beginning, it was scary because I watch what the police do to protesters. Most of the time they get violent with them. Especially Black protesters. So it was me being scared for her safety. And I understand the cause she's fighting for, but I'm looking at it from a point of view like, we need you. Me and these kids, we need you. I sacrifice anything, but I can't sacrifice losing you. So I sacrifice myself, I sacrifice my freedom, I sacrifice anything, but that's something I can't sacrifice. So her safety for me was number one. And after that, just talking to her and going out there with her and understanding the cause, then I became less worried, and I seen the bigger picture, and I knew she was in certain instances she was safe. I knew that y'all was safe, and then I felt better about that. And the only thing I could say is because she got a strong will is to support her, because this is something I can't even stop. And it'd be easier for me to support her than go against her.
Wow, that's
real,
powerful.
man. So watching, I like to talk about just the public thing because I know that it's tough, right? So watching your relationship with your mother and your wife publicly, right?
Right.
And seeing that play out in the public, and it's crazy because we have so much similarities, right? I watch your relationship with my mother. God bless her. Then my mother passed. My mother passed a few months ago, and we had like a similar relationship, right? Like she was more like my daughter sometimes than actually my mother, right? So I'm watching you and your mother go through these things
That's the same relationship of me and my mother. She's
I know,
more
that's what I'm
like
saying. I'm literally watching it, and I'm like, yo, this is the same way that my mother looks at me, like I'm her. Like I have to do everything for her. Then she gives me this guilt trip and all of these things. Even when she's wrong, I'm still wrong, right? So I'm watching this play out, and I met your mother when we was on a reunion. So, and she's a beautiful lady. I seen her all the time. She's a dope person. But watching that relationship play out, and watching it play out between, you got two strong women that you both love, and it's playing out on TV. Like, how is that dynamic?
I mean, it's hard, right? Because I'm my mom's protector, right? So she feel like she's losing me and she's not coming first, and she feel like she should be coming first before anybody and everything. And I feel like she has a husband, and she has a household and in a family outside of me. Now is my time, and I have to, just like her husband put her first, I have to put my wife first. But still, that doesn't take away the love I have for her, because I'm her protector and provider too as well. But this is my household.
I get it.
So I don't go over there. I don't go over there and try to mess up your household.
That's right.
Please don't do that to me. So, but the fact that I know it, and I'm gonna say this, I know it's not my wife, right? And I just know that the insecurities of and what my mom's going through. Not to say it's her either, because she's gonna be watching this. So let me just say it's not her either. But I know sometimes when you just love strong, you're gonna crash.
It hurts. It hurts. I mean, we all go through it. It's just a natural thing, especially for a mother, because here I am. I have a son, he's 23. They're having a baby, and I'm very all in stuff and giving my opinion. And what generally works is they just let me do whatever I want to do. Nobody wants, they just like, do you however you want to do it is fine. But I try my best not to be disrespectful, because at that point, then people start, and by the way, my grandchild's mother is very strong. She's very strong. She's not gonna just let me talk to her any kind of way. It's just not gonna happen. So, you know, it's a real personality thing. And that's why I was asking you about, as Yandy is now, you know, she, I'm not saying that she was soft-spoken before, but she certainly has had a realization of her power over the last several years. And now here you come back, and it's like, all right, wait a minute, I want things to be this way in my household. That had to be an adjustment. Your mama, your wife, it's a lot going on here.
So, yeah, so you know, I came home, right, not fully understanding, you know, all the things, you know, I left, and for so many years, I was like, had this, I'm the man of the house, you know, this is what we doing, this is how we doing it. But and I come home and Yandy's all over the place, and it's like, all right, you know, okay, let's slow down. Number one is I don't like this place we live in, so we moving. And she looked at me, but I like this place. I did this place nice. Now I don't like it. But why? And then I was like, I want to move to Atlanta. She's like, but I want to stay here. I said, I want to move. I had to sit down and explain the reasons why. You know, I couldn't just say I want to move. I had to tell, listen, these are the reasons why. These are the things that's important, and I just think that'd be good for our family. And then she understood. And then it works out. But before I would just say, nah, this is what it is. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. So now I learned to take my time and explain to her, like, the reason behind, you know, my actions or what I want to do.
Yeah, it's a process of being more of a partnership than being a dictator,
right?
Because
Yeah.
before, when you, yo, this is what we doing, I'm moving, boom, boom, and then understanding you have a powerful Black woman who in her rank is a boss. So now you can't, you gotta
She's gonna
sit
look
down.
at me and roll her eyes and look, yeah, you know, I'm gonna get all that. So, you know, so I gotta be
You have a meeting with bosses now. It ain't like, yo, y'all, we doing this. Now you sitting down with the bosses playing, and look, this is why the best move for us to make. So that now it's sanctioned on both sides. So I know it's a lot, man. I know it's a lot. You got a Black woman, strong Black woman. Marriage is a tough thing. How is, like, I know it's ups and you got a public marriage. You know what I'm saying? So I know that's a transition, you know, and I'm watching y'all, but I love the way that y'all transparent at times. You get on Instagram, y'all might have an argument, and you be like, nah, and y'all debating back and forth, and you allow the world to see that. Because I think, for me, there's a lot of people that think certain things about relationships and marriages, and most people only show the good parts, right? They don't show the work that comes into it, the constant things that you got to do. Like, what is that like?
I think it's a balance, you know, just creating a balance. And I think that marriage is something that we constantly got to work at, you know, for us, for our children, for our family, you know, and that sometimes it feels like there's a lot of pressure, you know, just because there's a lot going on. Like, she got things she want to do, and I got things I want to do. Then we have the children and responsibilities. We got to share it. And we crash. You know, we used to crash a lot. We don't crash as much now because we just learned communication is the key to success in our relationship. So we always gonna have to take time and not answer the phone and just talk. And that's what's important. That's what help us get through. Just talk. Just, you don't answer, I don't answer. These are issues. What's the solution?
It's like a dance.
Right.
Like a dance. And that's what they say. I mean, my parents always say that love is waning. It goes up and it goes down. You be in love and out of love in relationships, but you have to have respect And there are other just very fundamental things that help you restore love, you know, and the communication piece I think is so important. But I don't know what I'm talking about because I ain't got a man, period. So how about that? Anyway, it is really, really good to have had you on here to speak from. I've never seen Mendeecees being interviewed. So this is a huge deal.
Yeah, listen. I'm not gonna lie. I was about to say, do we gotta do this today? But I'm happy for this opportunity, and plus, I just feel like I'm talking to my family, so I really don't recognize this as an interview. This is just a regular conversation to me, basically, just telling y'all things that y'all already know, but you know.
Some of it, no, I learned things. I
Oh, you
learned
did?
stuff. Oh yeah, I learned today. I learned about the early release. I didn't know, or the early, release. I learned about a lot of things. I also have more of a perspective because Yandy is like one of my closest friends. And I know when you first came home, there was a struggle. She was going through things, you could tell she was all like frustrated at times. Y'all were going through things. And I can see the happiness that she has now is shining through. And that generally comes from peace in your home, right? Like shining through. The way that she wasn't like, I would call her to talk about work in the past, and she was there, but you could tell something was going on. Now she's like, here, I got creative ideas, fresh concepts. And that comes from you having a settled mindset. And usually as women, y'all gonna say I'm crazy and this and that. But usually when we have stability with our partner and somebody who is not stressing us out and making us lose our edges. And as this new thing they saying that I love, that Nick Cannon has started messing with our pH balance, because you bringing me Trixie's problems that she got going on. We usually pretty happy and we can do dope shit. But when those things are off, we're not functioning at the highest level.
Right. And plus, one of my rules a long time ago is that I told Yandy, don't bring gossip into the household. I don't care about who's with who. I don't care about no one else's business. I don't care about who's making money. I think that takes away from the relationship, just how people say pillow talk. There's a lot of stuff that we can talk about than other people's business. And focus more on our household and what we need to accomplish than be worrying about other people that we don't even know. And we can't help, we can't do nothing. I just, I think that too helped us a lot too as well.
And then also, I think one of the keys, like you said, pillow talk, is also other people's opinion of what you're going through, right? And when you get outside opinions of people that have an opinion of your relationship, right? And that got nothing to do with it. Like, I don't care about what somebody thinks about what me or you or what we doing, right? When you allow those things to start festering, it causes confusion. And then most of the time people come from a perspective where they actually doing worse than you are. Their relationships and lives and
they don't even have it. Most of the people don't even have a relationship, right? And they could take a 15-minute clip of a reel on Instagram or a picture, and they start telling you, they dissect that picture and tell you, oh, he doesn't blink one time if you want to be, they just for one picture and tell you, oh, he don't want to be with her, or she this and she's that and she's this. So you can't really let these people's opinion affect your household, because you'll be single just like them. No, no disrespect to the single people, but you won't have
single people.
Yeah, but that's by choice.
It is by choice. It is by choice, but also I have to speak up for the single people. I'm single by choice because I've been through life and I've seen enough shit to know what will work for me and what won't work for me. And I also can look at other people's situation and know off the bat that right there is not going to work. If I meet a couple, because I have a family member actually who just is constantly yelling and talking crazy to her husband. Like they talk crazy to each other, but she says things to him in front of other people that is just not good. And I already know he's going to find somewhere to go to deal with that, right? Because he's not going to just date and they get drunk. It's just not a good situation. Y'all actually know these people, but whatever. They get drunk and it's not a good situation. So I agree that you have to be real careful about people's opinions entering your relationship or people's gossip or whatever. But there's also something to be said about people's experiences. And if they actually love and care for you, it is their responsibility to tell you when they see you doing something that's destructive or not taking care of yourself. Because women have always had to sit down other women, whether they single, married, divorced, whatever it is, and say, sister, you playing yourself, or these are the things you need to do. The problem that I think exists, and my son and I argue about this all the time. Sometimes he agrees, but most times we argue about it. Men don't do that enough. There are not enough men calling other men to the table to say, I've seen these things and it's not cool. You can't, me and you can't, you got this wife with a brand new baby at home and every night you in the street with me. That shit ain't cool. Who's helping her? You know,
well, I know some men that do that, right? I'm fortunate to have a few married friends, right? And they would, you know, give me pointers. They have like been married for 20 years and a long time, and I ask them questions. How do you stay happy for 20 years? Because at some point we want to kill each other, you know, and trying to, you know, find a way to keep this thing going. And they quick to give me advice. You know, I can call them any second, and they just say, "Listen, it's the small things that count." And you know, it's not about big gifts. It's not about you know, being not saying super affectionate. It's just about just sometimes just calling your wife and say, "Yo, you the baddest thing I ever had." You know, making a day. It's just the smallest things count, and they actually work. And then they was the one that called me out, like, man, you bugging, you don't leave flowers and this and do that. And I'm like, no, I don't. But I'm getting better, you know. But lucky for me being around married men to understand, you know, certain things that you do, you know. I mean, I haven't grown up and seen these roles of an example, and I you know, I haven't been, my first wedding I've been to, I think it probably was mine's. I don't really know people that I grew up with that's married. Like, not, I could probably count on one hand. So I never seen that.
It's very, very, very powerful. Thank you.
Well, listen, Mendeecees, I just want to say, man, I'm proud of you, brother. You know,
Thank you.
just watching you evolve into who you are today, you know, is inspirational to me, man. And I know it's a lot of people who come from where we come from where you come from, who look at you and say, wow, I know Mendeecees, I know what he's been through. And if he can do this, I can do it. So I just want you, before you leave here, there's some young kid in Harlem in the projects, you know, dealing with a lot of stuff. He don't know how he gonna make it out. He don't know if he gonna survive. He's forced to hustle, all these things, and he looks up to you. I want you to give him some words that you would say to him that will motivate him.
I would say, don't be scared to try new things, right? You know, just whether you fail or you succeed, just try them. You know, if things get rough, you know, just look around and if possibly try to change your circle. You know, that's important. You know, try to be around people that's not gonna laugh at you for doing something new or going a different direction. People might not believe in you as long as you believe in yourself, because that's important. You know, people gonna tell you your ideas ain't gonna work or you're not gonna succeed. Don't pay that no mind. You know, so that's
I
what.
love that. I love that. Black men need to be told constantly, try new things. That is a very powerful statement to Black men, because Some Black men don't want to travel, right? Because they just don't know. They don't know what outside of this little area, what that means. They don't feel, what is the word, competent or well-spoken enough or well-cultured enough. Then in the community, you've got a lot of young men who are like, all I know is the block. That's all I know. All I know is sell drugs, maybe a little job, but being an entrepreneur, knowing that I kind of know what type of joystick I want, right? I know where the thumb ain't right and the this and that. Maybe I can actually create this because I'm a creative person, but nobody has ever told them that they could do that and become like, you know, the new game console, you know, developer. So telling young Black men, it can't be passed over quickly. It's not like a little statement. Try something different, try something new. I think that's a movement all by itself.
Right.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, man.
so much. We
All right,
love
thank
it.
Matter of fact, what is the name of the restaurant? Because we need to go there.
Dancing Crepes.
And
And where's it at?
Is at the Underground, downtown Atlanta.
Well,
Right
I'll
next
be
to
in I'll be in
McDonald's.
Atlanta this weekend, so I'm coming.
All right, make sure you hit me. I'll be here.
But
Right.
wait a minute, Dancing Creeps, was it supposed to start as like desserts and whatnot? And now
So what happened? Me and Yandy went to the Maldives, right? And she had these crepes, and we noticed it was a huge crepe community in Atlanta. And she was like, you know, maybe we should get some crepes in Atlanta. And then we just started out pretty much as an idea, and we turned that idea into reality.
it's beautiful.
There's something different.
Yeah.
Right, something different, right? We trying new things, always trying new things, man.
They said that's white folk stuff. That's what they
Well,
said.
anything you try is going to be anything outside the norm. What Black people do, whatever they box they put us in, is going to be white folk stuff.
That's right. That's what they gonna say. White
Right.
folks.
So now then they start saying you have money, that's white folk stuff, or if your teeth is white, that's white folk stuff, right? So, no.
Well, give me all the white folk stuff because
Exactly.
I'm tired.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it. So I guess.
All right. Thank you, brother.
All right, bro. We love you, man. Be safe.
I love
See you
y'all
this
too.
weekend.
All right, bet. See y'all later.
Always inspired to see my brother, man. Mendeecees is very humble, quiet. I know Mendeecees. Y'all know the TV's man. Like they got one little glimpse of it when he had gotten to the fight with Yandy's cousin trainer. They seen that little thing that that he got another side. But Mendeecees is grown, man. He's evolved into somebody that is just, and you can see that he's very intentional about being better, right? Yeah. And that's what I say about a lot of people that we don't get. That most of the people who've been incarcerated, who committed crimes in our communities, they're not bad people. They didn't want to commit crimes. There was a level of desperation. There was a level of hopelessness that we all felt. And we felt that was the way to get out of it. But to our core, we were all good people. I know a lot of good people. And a lot of people say there's no honor amongst thieves. And I believe that, but there are honor amongst honorable people who feel the need to commit a crime. See, that's a different thing. You can be an honorable person and feel like you need to commit crime to survive. If you're just a thief and that's just your nature, then there's no honor. But it's a lot of people in the streets who commit crimes, who engage in illegal activities, who are honorable individuals. And if you give them different opportunities and put them in circumstances and situations where they don't have to commit those crimes, they will definitely not do it. And, and I think Mendeecees is a testament to what you can do when you given the opportunities, when you evolve, when you come home and you see the errors in your ways and you realize how it affects the people you love and your family, and it takes you out of situations that you can be prospering in. So I just want to salute him, man. Salute him.
Awesome interview. Awesome guy. I'm happy. I'm proud of them, but I'm proud of him. I'm proud of them, but I am most passionately happy for my sister because I know that having a strong Black man ain't nothing like it.
Shout out to Mendeecees. Excellent interview. I hope people tune in and make sure You go to Dancing Crepes,
In
right?
Atlanta,
Atlanta, underground. Make sure you
and the
do
Yellow
that.
skincare store.
Yellow
I love
skincare.
that when he said, when he first came home, he thought it was a gimmick. Like his mindset is a certain way, right? And he's growing out of that. But there was a time when he like, everything is a hustle, everything is a gimmick, skincare. Like that's white people stuff. We don't create, the damn skin. And then he found out it actually works. And I know several people who use Yellow skincare. The only reason why I can't say, oh, I use it every day is because my dermatologist put me on something 11 years ago that works. And when you have something that works, more than likely, you're not going to just change because your friend came out with something else. Like that's just not how it works. But I have been a big supporter of Yale, and several people that I turned on to the product love it. And they use it.
I do it. I make sure I get.
You do.
I'm a Zell skincare fanatic.
Yell.
I am a Yell skincare fanatic.
Oh, well,
So that brings me to my I don't get it. This is some of the weirdest shit I've ever seen. Like, we keep constantly seeing weirdo shit, right? So over a dozen female inmates were raped, assaulted, and harassed in an Indiana jail after a corrections officer sold keys to their cell to the male prisoners for $1,000. Like, how in the hell did he think that was gonna work? Like, what was going through his mind? Like it's some sick shit. It really is some sick things. Like some of the things that we see, like you sold keys to the inmates. So they were just running into the cells. 28 women filed lawsuits. Like,
well, here's the thing that I want to say. Do you know what the biggest problem is with what he did?
What?
So he got money for it. That's what got him in trouble. Because I can tell you right now, keys are being passed around for free, and it's been going on for decades. Well, however long incarceration has been going on, they've been passing.
They giving up. Well, I was in the well, you know what? The jail I was in, there was no females in the prison. So for the most part, the males and the females are not in the same prison. So I don't even know the dynamic that this prison has to where a male inmate can get to the part of the jail, anything with a female is to get into a cell and do anything. I don't even understand how.
I didn't see it saying only other incarcerated individuals were going in there.
It says to male inmates.
And them too. I mean,
okay, so my thing is this, so look, who else was coming into jail to be able to go to the cell?
But the point I'm making to you, my son, is it had to be facilitated, which means that I'm not talking about outsiders. It could be staff, kitchen staff. It could be other.
It says specifically male inmates.
Okay, so then that means that somebody was allowing them. It's called an enterprise, right?
Oh, yeah,
it's
this
an
is
enterprise. Somebody was.
But that means it wasn't just him. It had to be. Oh, it is. It's two of them. It's Jamie and David. So they must have been running a racket.
That's what I'm saying. So all I'm explaining to you is that the only reason why you're reading this and it's an issue is because money was involved and these women decided to sue. We have a friend, a very close friend, who is a motivational speaker that is powerful and incredible, who was in prison for several years, a woman who tells the story of how the CEOs came into their cell, her and another woman that was in there, and had sex with them regularly, and especially made sure that they got fellatio whenever they wanted it from and they were young, okay? They were not 30 and 40, whatever years old. They were young. Okay, so
listen, I'm not saying that those things happen. I know those.
But I'm just explaining to you that the only thing that makes this rise to being worthy of discussion, which is always should be worthy of discussion, is that they got paid. Because
no, it's not just, but I'm trying to tell you, there's a dynamic. I'm not just talking because inmates and officers have had relationships. Incarcerated individuals, definitely. You know, prisoners and officers have always had those things. It's always happened. I know that for sure. You know,
Yeah, but we're not talking about that. Because by the way, that sounds like the slave master and the enslaved individual relations. Every now and then, I'm sure there's COs that sleep with prisoners, as you said. Oh yeah, sure. But in a lot of cases, as it relates to the women incarcerated individuals, they don't want to do it.
I'm not saying they want to do it. I'm not saying that's not. I'm just saying that the dynamic of an officer being able to have access to her cell is not new. That's something that if an officer decides that he's on a gallery, he can open the cell and run in and do whatever he wants to. And even if she don't want it, he can do that. But what it would take for another inmate to get from another wing of a jail to go into the female's wing, rape her, then get back, and nobody seen, like, this shit had to be they had to be running something, because it's so many officers in between the different sections of a jail where women are held in a men's jail, that it had to be, this shit is more than just these two people that was involved in this situation.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. But even in the scenario that you described where an officer could go in the cell and do whatever they want, there's still many eyeballs turning away from that, because the cameras are showing you going in and out of the cell. It's not like
there's no cameras.
What are you talking about? You telling me that in the jail, down these halls and corridors, there's not
a Sing Sing. It ain't no. I don't know if now, but there was not one. Not one camera in Sing Sing inside the blocks. None, not one.
That's crazy.
That's one.
Crazy. But I would hope that there is a way to be able to see and monitor, right? The control room is supposed to see what the fuck's going on.
Only thing the control room sees is
in and out of doors.
Like the doors that you go through to get to the cell blocks, but there's no cameras inside the cell blocks.
Well, how does that help a woman or a man or anybody that's being assaulted?
Because basically, if that's how they know, they would have been, this couldn't happen if they had cameras inside the cell blocks, because the camera would have caught it all the time. So, and nobody, the comptroller ain't gonna be like, yo, I'm involved in, man, that shit is all types of federal charges.
I wouldn't necessarily, I don't agree with that. I think that
everybody gonna be.
I think if you're an officer who is doing something with an incarcerated person, there's a couple people that know something about you going in there ain't right. You go in there often. There's some energy. There's something that is going to cause people to see, but they don't want to see, because nobody wants to be the one to be the whistleblower, to tell the story, to do the thing, and to have to be a part of what now becomes snitching, if you will, or whatever, on the colleague, right? And someone said to me, I have many correction officers in my family, and someone said to me one day that it is, when you go behind the gates, right? When you go in behind what they say, no two doors open at the same time. So when you step into the jail, you become just as much of a prisoner as the prisoners, because anything can happen.
That's a
fact. If people don't have your back in the midst of a situation, you could die.
That's a fact.
So it's real. That is really sad. Like, that these women were being assaulted by men who just had access to them and nobody protected them. That's sick.
That's unbelievable. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Street Politicians. Shout out to our guest, Mendeecees. I'm glad he's being released off probation, because I know what that's like. Early release, 3.5 years that he could have still been doing, and they let him off early, man. Just seeing him continue to prosper, being a father, entrepreneur, businessman, and just somebody who I see as a role model, somebody who has evolved from the trenches, from where we come from that young kids can look at and say it's possible, man. So shout out to him. And if you have any topics that you want us to talk about, send them to Street Politicians so we can get your topics on. If you have any, ideas, if you have any
Guests that you want us to interview.
guests you want us to interview, anything, let us know at Street Politicians on Instagram, DM us, and we'll definitely work on getting that done. So once again, we love you. Tamika Mary's not gonna always be wrong. My son is not gonna always be right, but we will both always, and I mean always, be authentic.
Peace.
Salute.
Listen to Street Politicians on the Black Effect Network on iHeartRadio.
And catch us every single Wednesday for the video version of Street Politicians on iWomen.tv. That's how we own it.